7 years, that's how long Emma and I had been married when I found the phone. 7 years of what I thought was a solid marriage, not perfect, but good. We'd been talking about having kids. We had plans. A future mapped out in our suburban house with the white picket fence and the two-car garage. From the outside, we looked like the couple everyone wanted to be. Emma was the organized one, always had her life together, always knew where everything was. I trusted her completely. Maybe that was my first mistake, trusting too much, questioning too little. When you love someone, you don't go looking for reasons not to. It was a Tuesday evening when she asked me to grab her sunglasses from her car. Such a simple request. Such an innocent moment that would shatter everything I thought I knew. "They're in the glove compartment," she called from the couch, not looking up from her phone. She was scrolling through Instagram, laughing at something one of her friends had posted. I remember that laugh. It was light, carefree, the laugh of someone with no secrets. I walked out to the driveway, keys in hand, evening air cool against my skin. The car smelled like her perfume and the vanilla air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror. I opened the glove compartment and started rummaging through the usual clutter. Insurance papers, hand sanitizer, receipts from gas stations and grocery stores. A lip balm she'd been looking for last week. That's when my hand brushed against something that shouldn't have been there. It was wedged beneath the passenger seat, hidden but not hidden well enough. My fingers closed around something hard and flat, cold. I pulled it out and stared at it in the dim light of the overhead dome. An iPhone in a plain black case. No stickers, no personalization, no scratches. It looked new, barely used. But it wasn't her phone. I knew her phone, rose gold with a glittery case and a photo of us from our honeymoon as the wallpaper. This was different. This was intentionally anonymous. I stood there in the driveway, the weight of this second phone heavy in my palm, and felt something shift in my chest. A cold, creeping realization that I was holding evidence of something I didn't want to believe. Why would Emma need a second phone? I ran through the possibilities, desperate to find an innocent explanation. Work phone, but she was a marketing coordinator at a local firm and they didn't issue company devices. A surprise phone for me? That made no sense. Maybe she found it somewhere and forgot to turn it in, but why hide it under the seat? The pit in my stomach grew larger with each failed rationalization. I tried to unlock it, but of course it was password protected. The screen showed no missed calls, no notifications. Just a generic wallpaper, a stock photo of mountains that came with the phone. Whoever was using this device was being careful. I stood there for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, my mind racing through scenarios I didn't want to consider. The word affair kept pushing its way to the front of my thoughts and I kept pushing it back. Not Emma, not my Emma. But the phone was real, cold and solid in my hand. I heard the front door open. "Did you find them?" she called out. "Yeah," I called back, my voice somehow steady. "Got them." I slipped the phone back exactly where I'd found it, grabbed the sunglasses, and closed the car door. My hands weren't shaking. Not yet. I was still in shock, still hoping this would turn out to be nothing. I walked back into the house and handed Emma her sunglasses. She smiled and thanked me, then went back to her phone, her real phone. I sat down next to her on the couch, the same couch where we'd spent thousands of evenings together, and realized I was sitting next to a stranger. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Emma slept peacefully beside me. Her breathing was soft and steady, the same as always, but everything else had changed. The phone had changed everything. I'm not the type to explode, to make accusations without proof. I'm methodical, patient. If something was going on, I was going to find out exactly what it was before I made a single move. The decision came quietly, in the darkness of our bedroom. I was going to watch, wait, and investigate. I just had no idea how deep the betrayal would go. The opportunity came exactly 1 week later, wrapped in Emma's brightest smile. "I have the most amazing news," she announced, practically bouncing into the kitchen where I was making coffee. It was Thursday morning and she was already dressed for work, navy blazer, white blouse, hair perfectly styled. She looked radiant, excited in a way I hadn't seen in months. "The girls are planning a trip to Scottsdale," she continued, setting her purse down on the counter. "Jess, Lauren, and Mia, a whole week of spa days, hiking, wine tastings. Can you believe they finally got their schedules to align?" She pulled out her phone and showed me. The Airbnb listing, a beautiful desert house with a pool, mountain views, and enough bedrooms for 4 women to spread out. The photos looked legitimate. The reviews were glowing. "When?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Next Thursday through the following Thursday, she replied quickly. I know it's short notice, but Lauren found this place and it's usually booked solid. Someone just had a cancellation. She was talking fast, the way she always did when she was excited about something. I really need this, you know. Work has been so stressful lately, and we haven't had a proper girls' trip since college. I nodded, asked the right questions. How much would it cost? She'd already calculated her share. Who was organizing everything? Jess, who was always the planner of the group, she explained. Everything sounded legitimate. Everything checked out. But I didn't believe a word of it. The next day, while Emma was at work, I made a phone call that would change everything. The private investigator's name was Rick Martin, and his office was in a strip mall 15 minutes from my house. I'd found him through a Google search for infidelity investigation, and his reviews were solid. Former police detective, 20 years of experience, specializes in matrimonial cases. His voice was gravelly, professional. "What can I do for you?" he asked when I called. I told him about the phone, about the sudden trip, about the feeling in my gut that something was wrong. I expected him to ask for more evidence to push back on my suspicions, but he didn't. He'd heard it all before. "Arizona, you said? 7 days." There was the sound of papers rustling. "I've got a guy in Phoenix, good photographer, discreet. What's your budget?" The number he quoted made me wince, but I didn't hesitate. "Do it," I answered. "I'll need photos of your wife, travel details, anything you can get me about where she's supposedly staying," he explained. I had everything ready. Photos from her social media, the Airbnb listing, even her flight information. She'd left the confirmation email open on her laptop. Rick took it all down with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. "One thing," he said before hanging up. "Whatever I find, you sure you want to know?" "I'm sure," I replied without hesitation. Emma left on that Thursday morning. I kissed her goodbye at the front door, watching as she rolled her suitcase toward the waiting Uber. She looked gorgeous, tan from her recent beach trip with her sister, hair flowing, dressed in comfortable travel clothes that somehow still managed to look effortlessly stylish. "I'll miss you," she said, standing on her tiptoes to kiss me. "Miss you too. Have fun with the girls," I replied, forcing a smile. "Love you," she whispered against my lips. "Love you too," I answered automatically. She climbed into the car, gave me one last wave, and disappeared down our street. I stood there until the car was completely out of sight, then went back inside and waited. The first message from Rick came 6 hours later, delivered through an encrypted app he'd installed on my phone. Subject arrived Phoenix Sky Harbor, not alone. Male companion, mid-30s, athletic build, picked her up at arrival gate. No other women visible. I read it 3 times. My coffee went cold in my hands, but I didn't notice. The betrayal was real now, documented. But I didn't scream, didn't throw my phone across the room. I just absorbed it, filed it away with the growing pile of evidence. Over the next 6 days, Rick's team painted a picture that destroyed any remaining hope I might have had. Photos of Emma and her companion, a man named Dylan Richards, finance manager, recently divorced, checking into the Four Seasons, not the Airbnb she'd shown me. Videos of them holding hands by the pool. Images of them kissing over dinner at an upscale restaurant. Each update was a knife twist, but I read every one. I saved every photo. I documented everything. Meanwhile, Emma texted me daily. "Miss you, babe," with a photo of a margarita by a pool. "The girls say hi," with a selfie that showed only her. "This place is incredible," with a sunset view that matched none of the photos from her supposed Airbnb. Each message was a masterclass in deception. Each one made what I was planning that much easier to justify. When she landed back home the following Thursday, I was there at the airport, waiting in the pickup lane with a smile on my face. She emerged from the terminal looking refreshed, tanned, glowing with what I now knew was the afterglow of a week-long affair. She slid into the passenger seat and immediately leaned over to hug me. "I missed you so much," she said, and for a moment I almost believed her. "How were the girls?" I asked as we pulled away from the curb. "Amazing," she gushed. "We're already talking about doing it again in 6 months." "That sounds great," I said. Then, as casually as if I was suggesting dinner, I added, "Hey, I was tea. Hinking, let's have your family over this weekend. I'll cook. It's been too long since we all got together." Emma lit up. "Really? That's such a sweet idea. They'd love that." "Perfect," I said, keeping my eyes on the road ahead. "It'll be exciting." She had no idea how exciting it was going to be. 3 days. That's how long I had to prepare for what would either be the most satisfying moment of my life or the biggest mistake I'd ever make. But sitting in Rick's office that Friday morning, staring at the photos spread across his desk, I knew there was no going back. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and professionally documented. Emma and Dylan at the resort restaurant, sharing an intimate dinner. Emma and Dylan on a hiking trail, his arm around her waist. Emma and Dylan disappearing into their hotel room and not emerging until the following morning. 8 months, Rick explained, pointing to a timeline he'd constructed. That's how long this has been going on, according to my background check on Dylan. They met at a marketing conference in Denver last spring. He slid a photograph across the desk, Emma and Dylan at what looked like a hotel bar, both wearing conference name badges. What started as drinks after a seminar evolved into secret meetings, burner phones, and elaborate lies about girls' trips. Your wife's been very careful, Rick continued, organizing the photos into neat piles. But not careful enough. We've got phone records from the burner device, credit card receipts from hotels, even security footage from the conference where they met. She's been living a double life. I paid Rick's final invoice without flinching. The cost was irrelevant now. This wasn't about money anymore, it was about justice. Back home, Emma was in full domestic goddess mode, excited about the family dinner she thought I was planning out of love. She helped me create the menu, suggesting her mom's favorite wine and her dad's preferred cut of steak. She was animated, affectionate, even suggesting we could announce our plans to start trying for a baby. Wouldn't that be perfect timing? She asked, stirring the marinade for the steaks. Right after my amazing week with the girls, we could tell everyone we're ready to start our family. The irony was almost too much to bear. While she planned our perfect evening, I was planning something entirely different. I'd already consulted with a divorce attorney, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Lily Wells who specialized in high-asset divorces and had a reputation for ruthless efficiency. With this evidence, Lily had said during our consultation, flipping through Rick's report, this will be the cleanest divorce I've ever handled. Adultery, documented deception, no children involved. You'll keep the house, the investments, everything. She'll be lucky to leave with her car. The divorce papers were already drawn up, waiting in my briefcase. All Emma had to do was sign. But first, she was going to face her family. I spent Friday night preparing manila envelopes. 5 of them, each containing a complete copy of Rick's investigation. Photos, phone records, hotel receipts, timeline of the affair, background information on Dylan, everything organized with the precision of a legal brief. 4 envelopes for Emma's family, her parents Tom and Linda, her brother Jake, and her sister Rachel. The 5th envelope, thicker than the others, was for Emma. It contained everything the others had, plus the divorce papers and a letter from my attorney explaining her rights and options. Saturday morning arrived gray and overcast, which felt appropriate. Emma was in the kitchen by 7, preparing side dishes and marinating the steaks. She was humming, actually humming, as she worked, completely oblivious to what was coming. "You're in a good mood," I observed, pouring myself coffee. "I just love having family over," she replied, not looking up from the salad she was tossing. "And after this amazing week away, I just feel so grateful for all of this, for you." The performance was flawless. If I hadn't seen the photos, hadn't read the phone records, I might have believed her. But I had seen them. I knew exactly what this week away had really been about. Her family arrived at 6 p.m. sharp, just as they always did. Tom and Linda with a bottle of wine and their usual warmth. Jake with his easy smile and terrible jokes. Rachel with her husband and 2 kids, who immediately ran to Emma for hugs. Everyone was in high spirits. Tom was telling stories about his latest fishing trip. Linda was complimenting the house's new throw pillows. Rachel was updating everyone on her kids' school activities. Jake was debating sports with Emma's brother-in-law. It was perfect. They were all here all together, all unsuspecting. Emma was glowing, playing the perfect hostess, pouring wine and laughing at her father's jokes. She caught my eye across the room and smiled, a smile full of love and contentment. In 2 hours, that smile would be gone forever. I grilled the steaks to perfection, served dinner with a steady hand, and made conversation like nothing had changed. We talked about work, about Rachel's kids' upcoming recitals, about Tom's retirement plans. Normal family conversation. During dessert, as everyone was relaxed and happy, full of good food and wine, I stood up and walked to the sideboard where I'd hidden the envelopes. Before we wrap up tonight, I announced, my voice calm and clear, I have something for everyone. Emma looked curious, tilting her head. What is it? She asked. I handed out the envelopes one by one, Tom, Linda, Jake, Rachel. Each one was sealed, each one contained the same devastating truth. Go ahead, I said calmly, returning to my seat. Open them. The next 60 seconds would destroy everything Emma thought she knew about her life. What? Silence filled the dining room as 4 hands opened 4 envelopes simultaneously. I watched their faces change in real time. Confusion melting into shock, shock hardening into understanding, understanding crystallizing into disgust. Tom was the first to speak. His face had gone ashen, his hand trembling slightly as he held one of the photos. Emma, he said quietly, his voice controlled, but I could hear the rage building underneath. You want to explain what this is? Emma looked around the table, genuinely confused. What? Explain what? What's in there? She asked, her voice getting higher. Linda's hand flew to her mouth. She was staring at a photo of Emma and Dylan kissing outside the resort restaurant, Emma's face clearly visible in the afternoon sunlight. Oh my God, she whispered. Jake was rifling through the papers, his usual easygoing demeanor completely gone. Jesus Christ, Emma, what the hell is this? He muttered. Rachel's reaction was the most visceral. She actually pushed her chair back from the table as if the photos were contaminated. Are you kidding me right now? Are you actually kidding me? She snapped. What? Emma's voice was getting more panicked. What are you all looking at? Someone tell me what, she pleaded. Tom threw the entire contents of his envelope onto the table. Photos scattered like playing cards, Emma and Dylan holding hands, Emma and Dylan hiking together, Emma and Dylan entering a hotel room. The timestamp on each photo clearly visible, the resort's name clearly displayed in the background. Your girl's trip, Tom said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Tell us about your girl's trip, Emma. Emma stared at the photos, her face draining of all color. For a moment she looked like she might faint. Then the denials started. These aren't, where did you get these? She stammered, grabbing at the photos frantically as if she could somehow make them disappear. These have to be fake, someone's trying to. They're not fake, I interrupted, my voice cutting through her protests like a blade. I hired a private investigator. He followed you for the entire week. Emma whirled to face me, tears already streaming down her cheeks. You had me followed, she demanded. I found your phone, I said simply. The burner phone in your car. I've known about Dylan for weeks. The room erupted. A burner phone? Linda's voice cracked with disbelief. 8 months, I continued, my voice steady and calm while chaos reigned around me. That's how long this has been going on. They met at a conference in Denver last spring. She's been lying to all of us for 8 months. Rachel was on her feet now, pointing at Emma with undisguised fury. You sat there last week and told me how happy you were. You talked about having kids. How could you? She shouted. It's not what you think, Emma interrupted, sobbing now, reaching for her sister across the table. Please, let me explain. Explain what? Jake's voice was bitter. Explain how you lied to everyone who loves you. Explain how you humiliated your husband while we all sat here thinking you were the perfect couple. Tom stood up slowly, his face a mask of disappointment and rage. In all the years I'd known him, I'd never seen him truly angry. He was a gentle man, a quiet man who believed in family and loyalty and doing the right thing. Seeing him like this, jaw clenched, fists trembling, was almost scary. How could you do this? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. To him, to this family, we raised you better than this. Daddy, please, Emma began. Don't, Tom said firmly, holding up his hand, cutting her off. Don't call me that right now. Emma turned back to me, desperation written across her face. Baby, please, can we talk about this privately? Let me explain, she begged. Explain what? I replied coldly. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out the 5th envelope. Explain how you texted me every day from Arizona. Miss you, babe. The girls say hi. Every single message was a lie. I slid the envelope across the table to her. Open it, I commanded. Her hand were shaking so badly she could barely tear the seal. Papers spilled out, more photos, phone records, hotel receipts. And at the bottom, the document that would end everything, petition for dissolution of marriage. No, she whispered. The word came out barely audible. No, no, no. Dissolution of marriage. Linda read over Emma's shoulder, her voice hollow. She divorced me the moment she got on that plane to meet him, I explained matter-of-factly. I'm just making it legal. Emma was on her feet now, grabbing my arm, her face streaked with tears and mascara. "We can fix this. I'll end it. I'll never see him again. Please, we can go to counseling," she pleaded desperately. I pulled my arm away gently but firmly. "There's nothing to fix. You made your choice. Now you get to live with it," I said calmly. "Where am I supposed to go?" Her voice cracked with panic. Tom's voice was ice cold. "Not home. Don't even think about coming home." Linda nodded, tears streaming down her own face. "You made your bed, Emma," she said firmly. "Mom, please," Emma tried again. "No," Linda's voice was final. "You don't get to be our little girl anymore, not after this." Rachel was packing up her kids' things, her movements sharp and angry. "Come on, kids, we're leaving," she announced. "Why?" her 6-year-old daughter asked innocently. "What's wrong with Aunt Emma?" "Aunt Emma made some very bad choices," Rachel replied curtly. "And now she has to face the consequences." Jake was already at the door. He paused and looked back at Emma one more time. "I don't know who you are anymore," he said quietly. "But you're not my sister. My sister wouldn't do this." One by one they left. Each one stopped to apologize to me, to tell me they were sorry, that they had no idea. Tom shook my hand, his grip firm and steady. Linda hugged me, whispering, "You deserve so much better." Rachel squeezed my shoulder. Jake just nodded, man to man, understanding passing between us. And then it was just Emma and me in the dining room, surrounded by the wreckage of what used to be our life. "You have 2 hours," I said quietly. "Pack what you need. Everything else we'll figure out through the lawyers." "Please don't do this," she whispered. "I love you." "No," I replied firmly, standing up and walking toward the stairs. "You don't get to say that anymore." I went up to the guest bedroom and closed the door behind me. Downstairs, I could hear her sobbing, making phone calls to friends who wouldn't answer, trying to find someone, anyone, who would take her in. But I'd been thorough. Rick's investigation had included Dylan's background. He was divorced, living in a small apartment, already growing tired of the drama Emma brought to his life. She'd burned through most of her savings on secret trips and burner phones. Her family had disowned her. Her reputation was about to be destroyed. An hour and 45 minutes later, I heard her car start in the driveway. I looked out the window and watched her drive away with 2 suitcases and nowhere to go. It was done. The silence in the house after Emma left was profound, not the comfortable quiet of evening, but the heavy stillness that follows devastation. I sat in my living room, surrounded by the remnants of our dinner party, and felt something I hadn't expected: relief. For weeks since finding that phone, I'd been living with a knot in my stomach, a constant sense that something was wrong. The phone had confirmed my suspicions, but it had taken weeks of investigation and planning to get to the truth. Now that it was out in the open, now that Emma was gone, the pressure in my chest finally eased. My phone buzzed constantly over the next few hours. Text messages from Emma's family, each one more supportive than the last. Tom texted, "I'm sorry you had to be the one to expose this. She fooled us all." Linda wrote, "You handled this with more grace than she deserved. If you need anything, we're here." Rachel messaged, "The kids are asking questions. I told them sometimes adults make bad choices and hurt the people they're supposed to love. I'm proud of how you handled this." Jake simply said, "Emma's been calling me. I'm not answering. She made her choice." Even Emma's extended family reached out, cousins, aunts, uncles who had heard the news through the family network. All of them expressing shock, disappointment, and support for me. Emma had burned every bridge in a single evening. The divorce proceedings moved with the efficiency Lily had promised. Emma tried to contest it initially, demanding half of everything, claiming the affair was a moment of weakness that shouldn't invalidate 7 years of marriage. But her lawyer took one look at Rick's evidence file and advised her to sign everything immediately. "Your husband has documentation of systematic deception spanning 8 months, her lawyer explained during a conference call I wasn't supposed to hear, but Emma had put on speaker in desperation. "He has. Financial records proving you used marital assets to fund this affair. In a no-fault state, this evidence is devastating. Sign the papers, take what little he's offering, and consider yourself fortunate he's not seeking financial damages for emotional distress." She signed everything within a week. The house stayed mine. It had been purchased before our marriage with my inheritance from my grandfather. The joint savings account stayed mine. The transaction records showed Emma had withdrawn thousands for her secret trips, essentially stealing marital assets to fund her betrayal. She walked away with her car, her personal belongings, and a reputation in ruins. Through mutual friends, I heard fragments of Emma's new reality. She'd moved in with Dylan immediately after leaving our house, but that arrangement lasted less than a month. Dylan's ex-wife, it turned out, was a formidable woman who made sure everyone in his social and professional circles knew exactly what kind of person Emma was. The affair that had seemed so exciting and romantic in hotel rooms became a liability in the real world. Emma's own friends, the real ones, not the fabricated girl's trip alibi, cut her off one by one as the truth spread. The marketing firm where she worked let her go after her affair became office gossip. Professional networks in our small city talked. In a place where reputation mattered, Emma's was radioactive. 6 weeks after the dinner, I heard she'd moved 3 states away to live with a cousin who barely knew her. Her social media accounts went dark. Her phone number changed. Emma had effectively disappeared from the life we'd built together, and no one seemed particularly upset about it. Her family never spoke to her again. Tom and Linda still invited me to holiday gatherings, treating me more like a son than they'd ever treated Emma like a daughter after the truth came out. Rachel's kids still called me uncle, and Jake still texted about sports and asked for life advice. Emma had lost everything, and I'd gained a clarity I hadn't realized I was missing. The weight of living with deception, even when I hadn't known what that deception was, had been enormous. Now, in the quiet of my own house, with my own thoughts and my own plans, I could finally breathe. Some people might call it cold revenge. I called it consequences. 1 year later, I'm sitting on my back deck on a warm Saturday evening, beer in hand, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. The house behind me is quiet but not empty. There's a difference between solitude and loneliness, and I've learned to appreciate the distinction. The year has been transformative in ways I couldn't have predicted. I thought the end of my marriage would break me, leave me bitter and suspicious and unable to trust again. Instead, it freed me. Without the constant undercurrent of deception I'd been living with for months before I even knew what it was, life became clearer, simpler, more honest. I started running again, something I'd given up years ago when Emma complained about the time it took away from us, she'd said. I reconnected with college friends I'd lost touch with. I took cooking classes, learned to play guitar, started reading again. All the things I'd slowly stopped doing to accommodate a marriage that was built on lies. I've been dating, tentatively. Nothing serious yet, but I've met people. Good people. Honest people. Women who don't need secret phones or elaborate cover stories to live their lives. It's been a revelation to realize how much energy I'd been putting into a relationship where I was the only one actually participating. Emma has tried to contact me a few times over the year. Holiday texts, birthday messages, attempts to explain, to apologize, to find some way back into the good graces of the family she destroyed. I don't respond. There's nothing she could say that would matter now. I heard through the grapevine that Dylan finally cut ties with her completely last spring, tired of the drama and the baggage she brought to his life. She's apparently working retail in whatever city she fled to, living in a studio apartment, completely disconnected from everyone and everything she once knew. People sometimes ask if I feel guilty about how thoroughly her life unraveled. The answer is no. I didn't destroy Emma's life. I just made sure the truth came to light. She destroyed her own life the moment she decided that marriage vows were optional and that the people who loved her were expendable. The revenge didn't heal the betrayal. Nothing could do that. But it gave me something equally valuable. The knowledge that actions have consequences, that some lines can't be uncrossed, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to let someone get away with treating you like you don't matter. I finish my beer and head inside. Tomorrow I'm hiking with friends, then dinner with a woman named Sarah who makes me laugh and has knee. Vern needed to lie about where she's been or who she was with. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. But sometimes it's making sure the truth comes to light when people think they can hide in the darkness forever. Emma learned the difference the hard way.